Oh 7 citizens, Black here from CAsaBLACk Gaming, and today we have a few things to discuss in regards to roadmap changes. Remember that I not only track the cool things that they share in their little announcement every 2 weeks, but I also track all of the changes that take place on the roadmap over time that are not discussed, which means we can get a better overall sense of how things are going and what we can expect to actually be completed and about what time. Now, before we get into this roadmap deep dive, I want to first ask that if you enjoy my content and find it useful, that you please like, subscribe, and comment on this video. And also, you can join my Discord, where me and others are there to help new players with questions, and also just to talk about our favorite ships or theories on what's coming. We'd love to have you on our Discord, so come on by. And so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this roadmap for June 14th. So first up are the new items added to the progress tracker, which are just the 2 announced vehicles that came during the Invictus event, the 2 Murai Furies and the Tumbril Storm. Now I'll discuss the Tumbril Storm more in detail when I get to that part of the deliverables. As for the release view, we got the wheeled vehicle handling improvements added for 320, which kind of came out of left field, but it's welcome, and I'll be interested to see what these changes are, and I'm sure we'll see more on a future ISC sprint report soon. Anything that can help the vehicles drive better and differentiate between gravity levels on planets versus moons will be nice to have. I have a feeling this might also have something to do with the recent monthly report mentioning AI using ground vehicles, which is a feature that we might see soon. Okay, so now on to the things that were not discussed in the update. So with almost every single roadmap update that we get, we also get some unpublicized changes that happen that the average player or content creator just might not pick up on, but I literally track every single item being worked on and have done so for the past 8 months. And with the upstream team schedule being updated this week, we saw some pretty big shifts on items that we've been waiting for, which is to be expected, especially on the larger featured items that have been pushed out. Let me break down each of the changes that I have been tracking. For those hoping to see the santok.yāi alien ship during this week's Alien Week, I have some bad news, which we already knew if you were following the roadmap because it was pushed back on the April 5th roadmap to mid-September due to some redesign and rework of the thrusters, but now it's been pushed back even further to mid-December, meaning players will not see this ship until 2024 most likely. We might see a new Alien Week concept release for today's Alien Week, but that would be my guess as to any new thing for Alien Week for 2023. So this one kind of hurt, I'm not gonna lie. I had hoped we might see this feature this year, but Bounty Hunting V2 has now been pushed back from August to mid-December as well, making this another feature not to be excited for until 2024. We should see tons of progress on it from now until then, so something to look forward to in the ISCs, but just not something we're gonna have in our hands this year. Alright, so more time has been added to the Crusader Spirit, taking its original ending date from June through mid-September, which is a 6-month push. So what does this mean? Since each one of the variants does not have its own roadmap entry, I think this just means that work on any or all 3 of the variants will continue, which is good. The A1 still looks ready to come out possibly this summer, as its work is mostly finished at this point, and we've also started seeing mention of the C1, and since it's basically just a cargo variant and considered it's already well into the gray box phase if not later, I could see it coming within a month or 2 after the A1 if it doesn't arrive along with it. The real work will be going into the E1, which is the executive taxi version, where seats and the automated bartender contraption will certainly take more time to complete, and I think that's the version we would see next year, with that work going through September if it doesn't get pushed out even further once we reach the 4th quarter. I fully expect 2 out of the 3 variants to be released between now and CitizenCon, and I'm looking forward to both. Here was another one that kind of hurt to see pushed out so far, and that is Freight elevators. They were pushed out from their mid-September date now to mid-December, meaning this is another feature we won't get until next year. Now, what does this mean in terms of cargo and salvage? Well, it means it's not to expect much in the form of updates for either of those, which I was barely hanging on to this feature even making it in this year anyway, but it's now considered a dead topic. So other than tractor beams and vehicle munching, do not expect more in the form of cargo or moving certain items from ship to station this year. This is a sort of a surprise, but not really. More time was added to this feature, pushing its new date out to mid-December from when it completed in April. But I don't think it's for Area 18, as that zone's pretty well off now. I think this is meant to update the signage and maybe some little things around one or more of the other starting cities. The signage is definitely something that needs to happen in other zones, especially Hurston. So that is my guess on which city they are working on, if they're only working on one, especially since that city's skyline exterior was just revamped for 319, so this makes sense to kind of wrap that city up. I do not think we'll see more added in terms of missions for Hurston or other cities, but maybe they are able to just copy over some of those missions and scenarios, so it could be, I guess. It will just depend on how they set up the tools when they did Area 18, and if that's something they can just replicate and swap over to the other cities. Alright, sad news, Origin fans. The X1 is not coming this year unless it happens to finish just in time for the next huge ship sale in November. But this timeline will be cutting that close. But I will leave this little bit of hopium here for you guys who might still be grieving over the santok.yāi. This was originally scheduled to have its work done at the end of September, and it's now been pushed back to November. So anything dealing with Pyro, we can firmly expect those dates to just keep moving, and this deliverable was indeed pushed out from its original end date of mid-August now to mid-November. It's curious it was not pushed out to December, but I seriously doubt that means much, since we will be lucky to even be testing Pyro come November, so I would not get your hopes up there, just something to note and watch. Here we have another new vehicle and deliverable, and so another new overlay and graphic that I had to create from scratch. I'm joking, I had these set up on a template, so I just have to change the title and render them, so no biggie. Anyway, we learned of the new tank's existence with Invictus. I pledged for one because I want to test it out on day one. Now, will I keep it after it's available to buy in-game? Absolutely not. Work on this began in February of 2022. Now, I had been tracking this vehicle as an unannounced vehicle and had thought it might be a new, or had hoped it might be a new medium ship from Anvil or RSI to kind of compete with the Cutlass and Spirit and the Mist Freelancer, but I was way off here. This tank is scheduled to be completed in August, and from the looks of things, I would say it will probably maybe be a 320.1 release or released for CitizenCon. Now, in a move that did not surprise anyone really, although I am surprised it was not pushed back sooner, is that the underground facilities were pushed back from mid-July to the end of September. Now, I'm not sure they will be completed then, but with the Montreal team being one of the teams working on them, they might just make it this year. We're gonna have to see. But I know I and many others are looking forward to these added places of interest and mission hubs. Alright, so last but not least of the deliverable changes from everything I track is the additional time that popped up out of nowhere for the Vandal fleet. This feature focuses on the Vandal ships themselves for both Squadron 42 and the PU, and this deliverable brings those ships up to gold standard. This is something that's been worked on since 2021 on and off, so my guess is the current work was added as they are working on Squadron and found something that needed to be altered. It could be something more for the PU, like in the form of an event, but I cannot imagine them doing anything extra with the push to get Pyro being at a pretty hectic pace going into the last 6 months of this year. Now, would it be nice to have some sort of Pyro entry event to get us hyped for Pyro and lead the way? Sure, but I think we'll be lucky just to get into Pyro by this time next year. Never mind anything fancy to go along with it. Alright, and that's going to do it for this roadmap deep dive. Now, every time we get a push out on these dates from the upstream or downstream teams, we see some big seismic shifts. So in that regard, it's pretty much business as usual. We are getting a clearer idea of what to expect for the remainder of the year. We should also be expecting info and big news to slow down as the summer wanes, because they do tend to start holding things close to the chest before CitizenCon, so they can spring newsworthy items there. And with it being in person this year, I think we can expect an information mission cut off pretty much going forward until then. There's still hope we might get a few things to tide us over until then with 320, such as more derelict settlements, maybe a few more mission types being introduced. Of course, we have the SRV and maybe 1 or 2 of the spirits. I would say that the bulk of the content of new features will be with Arena Commander, which will help to offset some of the lack of content that we will not be seeing. Anyway, I thank you for watching and hope you enjoyed these roadmap deep dives. Please let me know down in the comments what you're excited for, what you're bummed about, or if you have any questions, you can post those as well. Remember to be kind to your fellow gamer. Don't let the roadmap ruin your outlook. It's pretty much the Grim Reaper of Star Citizen. And stay positive, citizens.